Right, we have gone live, so I'm going to start by saying that this is a meeting of the Licensing and Appeals Subcommittee hearing, and we're here to determine the application for a variation of a licensed premises for the Remnant Club. I'm going to start by asking the panel to nominate somebody to chair this meeting, please.
I'll nominate Jackie.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. Thank you. Okay. Good morning, actually it's good afternoon and welcome to everyone. Are there any declarations of interest? I'm ever so slightly confused. I thought Mr. Francis was going to be here, but is somebody else here in his place?
Yes, Martin Levy, I'm the chairman. Paul Francis is at work today.
You're the chap who's going to speak in front of. Okay, yes. Good. I'd like to say to start off with that only information relevant to the representations can be considered and must be relevant to the licensing objections of the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, protection of children from harm. And may I ask if you understand that, Mr. Levy?
Yes, I understand that.
Good. Okay. And as I understand this application, you would like a variation to a club certificate at Remnant Club, yes?
That's it, yes, definitely that.
Okay, so the licensing officer will introduce the hearing report and update on any developments or publication of the report whenever required. So over to you, Mr. Coomer.
Thank you, Chair. So, members are requested to determine the application for a variation to a club premises certificate in accordance with Section 85 of the Licensing Act 2003, having regard to the representations received and the requirement to promote the 4 licensing objectives. The purpose of this report is to provide the relevant information for the subcommittee to consider and determine the application from Mr. Paul Francis for a variation to a club premises certificate at Remnant Club, Remnant Lane, Remnant, Henley-on-Thames, RG9 3DB. The following options are open to the Licensing and Appeals Subcommittee. To grant the application in full and on the terms and conditions contained within the application to include any applicable mandatory conditions. To grant the application as above, modified to such an extent as considered appropriate to satisfy any relevant representations and promotes the licensing objectives, or to reject the application. An application is required in respect of any premises where it is intended to conduct one or more of the 4 licensable activities, these being the sale of alcohol, the supply of alcohol in respect of a club, regulated entertainment, and the provision of late night refreshment. The applicant has applied to amend the authorised timings for the sale of alcohol and opening of the premises at Remnant Club as follows. For the supply of alcohol, from 10 AM until 11 PM Monday to Saturday, and 11 AM till 10:30 PM on Sundays, to 10 AM till midnight Monday to Saturday, and 11 AM till 10:30 PM on Sundays, and for the opening hours of the premises from 10 AM until midnight Monday to Saturday, and 11 AM till 10:30 PM on Sunday, to 10 AM till 1 AM Monday to Saturday, and 11 AM to 11 PM on Sunday. The application has been properly made and all procedures correctly followed. The application is attached as Appendix A in your pack, and photographs of the blue site notices in place and a copy of the newspaper advert are attached as Appendix B. The premises is a private members club with a clubhouse and gardens. As described by the applicant, the club is primarily founded as a place for members of its 7 founding clubs to meet and enjoy the Henley Royal Regatta. The club allows members to invite limited numbers of guests during the regatta window with a maximum total attendance of 2,000 people. Guests are only admitted on the specific introduction of a member. The club is not used outside of the regatta window except for a limited number of private hire events and the Henley Women's Regatta. Private hire events are only available to members or under the sponsorship of a member. The club's conditions of hire require that a member is to be present during the function in either case, and at a private hire events the club does not supply or sell alcohol. The existing club premises certificate is attached as Appendix C in your pack. The operating schedule is completed by the applicant and contains additional measures to illustrate how they propose to promote the 4 licensing objectives as required by provision of the Licensing Act 2003. The following licence convictions have been agreed between the applicant and Thames Valley Police to be added to the licence. I won't read them all out, but these include dealing with incidents and refusals, CCTV, age verification measures, right to work checks, and staff training in age verification, refusals, and conflict management. The full list of conditions are in the pack. The responsible authorities consulted on the application are Thames Valley Police, Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue, Environmental Health, Trading Standards, Public Health, the Local Planning Authority, the Local Safeguarding Children Board, and Home Office Immigration Enforcement. One representation was received from Thames Valley Police, but following the aforementioned conditions being agreed with the applicant, the representation was withdrawn. There have also been 2 representations against the application from Remenham Parish Council and an other person, with concerns over potential nuisance arising from an extension of hours. Representations are attached as Appendix D. Those that have made a representation have been informed of the time and date of the Licensing and Appeals Subcommittee hearing and have been informed of their right to attend. In terms of legal considerations, conditions may only be attached to a club premises certificate where they are deemed appropriate for the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives. They must be proportionate and not duplicate any existing provisions contained in other legislation. The justification behind a refusal or the attachment of conditions must be given to the applicant. The subcommittee is advised that any findings on any issues of fact should be on the balance of probabilities, and any decision should be based on the individual merits of the application. The subcommittee, in arriving at its decision, must have regard to relevant provisions of national guidance and its own statement of licensing policy, and reasons should be given for any departure. There is a right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days from the date the applicant is notified of the decision of the Licensing and Appeals Subcommittee. That's my report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I must apologise, I didn't introduce the 3 councillors that are here. So I'm Jackie Rance and there's Rob Coomer and Rebecca Margetts. We're all borough councillors. So I apologise. Hi. Right. Mr. Levy, would you like to present your case and include any witnesses? Mr. Levy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I don't. Well, any witnesses? I'm not sure what I would want witnesses for, but I know our case is we only really want this application for 2 days per year, and that's the Friday and Saturday of Henley Royal Regatta. We currently close within our existing licensing hours by that time. We just want the option, you know, if things are in good order and everything's going well, to be honest, we just want to be able to serve for another hour and keep people there when they're having a good time. We don't get a lot of rowdy behaviour at our place, to be honest. It's a members club, members and the guests. All guests have to be signed in. They cannot get in without a members say so. We sell tickets to get people in, badges to get in. Anyone under 18 has a different coloured badge. We have very, very few of those anyway. We're happy to stay within the conditions of the licence. Staff that can do that. I don't know if you know much about the background of Remenham Club. It was explained in Paul's original application that we are purely a members club. We only really exist for a period around Henley Royal Regatta. The rest of the year, apart from a few private hires, and we're not talking more than 6 of those per year, the place is only occupied by our 2 caretakers. We employ reputable security on our gates. We have the same outfit that we now, so we're pretty well self-contained. In terms of, well, what objections there may be to the application, I have strong memories of leaving Remenham after we've shut up shop and walking back towards Henley, either along the road or the towpath, and finding people heading away from Henley on the opposite direction, still going to places that are going strong. So in terms of, you know, creating more disturbance to the local environment than anybody else, I can't see that this makes any difference, to be honest, but that's my view, and it's open to challenge. Anyway, that's the basis of our application. It's really only for 2 days of the year, and if you wanted to put condition on it of that, we're perfectly happy to do that as well.
Thank you. Anybody, I invite anyone to ask any questions. It's Mr. Emerson, have you got anything you want to ask?
Yes, please. Thank you. First of all, I'm not quite sure what happened to Remenham Parish Council, because Bill Ronald was supposed to be joining along with a couple of others, and
yes,
but they clearly haven't been able to connect. But I'm a local resident, but I've been involved in licensing issues for the past 30 years with Copaz, Rewind. I wrote the submission for variations to the Rewind license that went to the licensing committee a couple of years ago, which was approved to bring more controls over the Rewind event. This application on paper may look trivial and a small variation, but there's a principle here that's really important. We have fought to keep other licensees within limits, and to say an extra hour, fine, but then everyone says, well, there's precedent now being set, so we all want an extra hour as well. So it has a knock-on effect. But it is about control, and as I mentioned, I think in my commentary on this application, this has all led to discussions, and we had a special licensing committee at Wokingham last year, purely to look at the issue of cumulative impact. The fact is we have 150 days of events now in Remenham, and the disruption that goes with that. And we can say this is trivial, but we got there by this process of accretion over time. It's a boiling frog syndrome. Events got bigger, times got longer. And so we did a presentation to the committee, and they agreed that they should at least look into whether a cumulative impact policy should be put in place, where licenses, any variations or new licenses will be looked at is this additive to the 150 days? You know, we have a population equivalent to Coventry or Swansea, greater than Newcastle, descend on these 2 square miles every year. And the disruption is enormous because it isn't just an extra hour here, it's the cars, it's traffic. Just last week, Remenham Lane was blocked for a mile due to a run through Henley event, just yet another one. The fact is, Wokingham this year is carrying out a cumulative impact assessment during the year, during the summer. And it seems to us inappropriate, whilst that is going on, to add something else, whatever it is and however trivial. There's a principle here of this does not seem like the right time to be adding anything else while we're assessing what's currently going on. So that's the basis of our objection. This is inappropriate at this time, but it's also a principle of you let an hour go here and everybody else wants the same thing. You cannot look at this in isolation.
Thank you, Mr. Emerson. Would any of the borough councillors like to ask any questions?
So just for
No, I don't have any. Sorry, I'll let you go ahead, Rob, but I don't have any. Thank you.
No, just my own clarification then, if I understood correctly, the club is only used on the I think 6 days of the Royal Regatta and the 3 days of the women's regatta. Is that correct?
That is the main.
Sorry, apart from the private hire events.
I don't think the Women's Regatta have an evening event. And there are some private hire events as well, but we would certainly not ever use the license extension for those, ever.
I think if I read correctly, in the private hire events, you don't supply alcohol. Is that correct?
Correct. The bar is not stocked for most of the year.
No, I can understand.
We don't have any permanent staff. We're entirely run by volunteers, and we employ staff purely for the regatta period.
And if you to extend the hours as you're suggesting, do you think that would have any effect on the numbers of attendees?
No, we wouldn't be in. They are.
I think I'm going to take that as a no. Yep, those are the only questions I had.
I see Neil Allen, your hand is up. Please speak. Thank you. Go unmute.
Thanks, Chair. So just to introduce myself, my name is Neil Allen. I'm the legal advisor to the panel. So if you hear me asking any questions, they're purely to assist the panel and no other reason. Can I just suggest, so unfortunately, Mr. Levy, you cut off the answer to Councillor Kuma. I think it's important that we have it on the record. So if you remember the answer, if you remember the question, can you give the answer now, or I'll ask Councillor Kuma to re-put it?
Sure. My question was just whether you anticipate there being any change in the numbers of attendees given the extension in hours.
My answer to that question is no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question. What difference will an hour make at the end of the evening? Presumably no one else will come in, or are you expecting those in there to just carry on drinking and eating? I don't know what else.
Can't the answer to that is what? Sorry, I'm very poor internet connection down here in St Mawes, I'm afraid. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. It's really about an extra hour's bar takings for us. We don't run for profit. We aim to break even every year, and to be honest, we struggle every year to break even. But on those Fridays when the bar's running at a take of, £2,000 or £3,000 an hour, an extra hour would make all the difference.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to ask any questions? Rob.
One more, and I suspect this is a question really for Neil, actually. In listening to Mr. Emerson's points regarding the cumulative effect and also appreciating the potential knock-on effect that he's talking about, it didn't strike me that those actually reflected any of the 4 conditions we're allowed to consider. Perhaps you might comment from a legal perspective.
Councillor, yes, thanks. I think the thing to do then is to ask Mr. Emerson just to elaborate. I suspect what Mr. Emerson is referring to is the noise and disturbance. This is the public nuisance, but probably useful to get Mr. Emerson just to clarify that. Thanks, Councillor.
Thank you. Yes, that is exactly the point. And at the Rewind presentation, where we applied for variations, our barrister made it very clear that public nuisance can be based on 2 recent High Court rulings, can be defined in the broadest possible terms. But public nuisance is the biggest issue when it comes to events here. And I'm not suggesting necessarily that this extra hour would cause public nuisance. We are not enemies of Remenham Club. We are good friends, long friends of Jason, who used to run the place, and his son's now running the place. This is not personal. It's about the constant attempt over 30 years to keep some level of control, mostly, which has not worked, by gradual accretion. So if there are other players, if granted extra hours because a precedent has been set, who will cause disruption, will definitely cause disruption. I've got videos of police officers rugby tackling people outside my garden. And you may say, well, they're not the kind of people that go to Remenham Club. On the other hand, as I say, you establish a legal precedent of the extension here that others then could come back on, and you would have no or little basis for saying, well, we've given it here, but we're not going to give it to you. It would make it difficult, I would suspect, to reject similar sorts of extensions that are being asked. So that's the basis of our concern. And yes, it's public nuisance.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to ask anything?
Yes, I've got
Mr.
my hand
Levy,
up.
would you like to? It is your opportunity to ask questions.
Yes, well, the first question,
You keep
an
fading.
administrative one, because my internet connection is poor, and I'm probably missing things. Could my colleague Jane possibly take over answering on behalf of Remenham?
I can't answer that. I can't even see another man.
I'm on the link.
Yes.
Oh, right.
She's
Jane
on page
Osborne.
2.
I'm also a director of Remenham Club, and I'm the membership secretary. So it may help if my colleague's internet is intermittent. It may well help if I can assist.
Okay, thank you. So will you answer the questions that Mr. Levy wanted asking?
I'm not sure he was about to ask a question, in fact, because he is the one currently answering.
Oh, I see. The hand
I think
up
he was just
to
asking whether
introduce
I
you.
could answer. Yeah.
Okay, well, again, is there anything else that you'd like to say, Mr. Levy or Jane? Neil.
Chair,
Mr.
sorry, I've got a couple of questions, if I may, at this particular point. And actually, the first two actually are directed at Alec. So, Alec, I don't know if you can assist on a couple of matters. They lead into questions that I might have for the applicants in due course. Alec, the first question is, does this club, does it have any record of breaches of its licence or any problems being reported to yourselves as the licensing authority?
I will just pull up their record now. So there's not a lot appearing immediately here. Not all complaints get linked to the license on the system, so there may be some that would take me a bit more digging to find, but there's not a lot here. I can't see a lot here.
Would it be fair to say if there was a problem, it would be in your mind anyway?
Yeah, I've not come across any issues from this one.
Yeah. Okay. And with regards to the community impact assessment that Mr. Emerson was referring to, it's correct, isn't it, that is being considered but isn't in place yet? Is that correct?
As far as I know, Kieran, my boss, is unfortunately not here today. Would be better placed to answer about that. But I don't believe it's out at consultation yet. I think it was discussed at the most recent licensing committee.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thanks for that. Now, Chair, can I just direct a couple of questions just to the applicant? So I'll direct it to Jane, if that's okay. Jane, just a couple of questions. One of the options that the committee always has, even if it grants the application, is to add some conditions onto it. And the first one that Martin referred to was the dates. Now, are there specific dates that you would be happy for the license to be limited to?
Yes. The only dates we actually want the opportunity to be able to use this extension is for the Friday and the Saturday of the regatta week. Now, of course, we can't narrow down that to a particular day every year.
Yeah.
But the regatta week always encompasses the first weekend in July.
Yeah. So
it would be for the Friday and the Saturday of that week.
Of a regatta week, and that's Henley Roll Regatta.
Henley Roll Regatta.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
This year, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my wall planner. I should know this. This year it's the 3rd and it would be the 4th and the 5th, I think.
Yeah.
Of July.
Okay. Right, that's fine. And the other one as well, I noticed on the papers that the parish council have said that if the license is granted, that they would want a condition added. I'm just looking away. This is on PDF page 53.
I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's mentioning a local phone number. If that was made a condition, would that be achievable from the club's point of view?
I'm hesitating because I'm not sure whether there is in fact what one might call a landline at the club.
Yeah.
There is certainly a contact number that we could provide for each regatta as a condition of the license, but it would likely be a mobile number. That won't be a problem with reception because anybody who has a mobile there will be on the Wi-Fi network anyway.
I think that's pretty standard practice these days in any event. So that would be a condition that the club could meet if it was imposed.
Yes, absolutely. There will always be. We have for the period of regatta, we have a contracted bar manager who is always on the premises on a Friday and a Saturday night, and we have security 24 hours a day. So normally the security manager is on duty on the Friday and Saturday, but we could certainly provide a number.
Jane, thank you very much. And Chair, I notice Mr. Emerson's got a question. Those are all the questions that I've got for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Emerson, what would you like to ask?
I don't want to ask anything.
All right, or make comment about it.
I want a clarification. You mentioned Kieran and cumulative impact. We're in regular contact with Kieran, and he has told us that the assessment will commence on beginning of June, 1st of June this year, over the summer period. So as far as we're aware from Kieran, the assessment is going to happen.
Thank you. And does anyone else have anything more comments to say or questions to ask? All right, Mr. Levy, would you like to summarise? It's up to you to summarise what you're requiring, please.
I believe you have, the case before you. I mean, my opinion is that it is not hugely intrusive. We're talking about 2 hours per year. Okay, maybe it's the thin end of the wedge, but I certainly don't see it that way. All the establishments along there, we have the most controllable perimeter, if you like. I put it to you to make your decision. Jane, have you got anything to add?
Nothing more to add?
You did cut off in the middle there, Martin. All I was going to say was we are one of perhaps the few enclosures along there that are open during the night, with the exception perhaps of Leander, who control their guests in the way that we do. Each of our guests either has their own badge, which is identifiable back to them with their personal details and contact details, or they have a guest badge, which is specifically linked to a member. If there's any disobedience in the club, they normally come before either Martin or myself to be dealt with for anything that happens inside the club. And when I mean anything that happens, I mean just general instances of people perhaps being a little ruder than they should be, or perhaps walking over flower beds. We're capable of disciplining our own members by removing their rights and their privileges, and we do that if we need to. In terms of disorder on the premises, there's very little. In terms of any nuisance along the towpath, that could only really occur when people are leaving or coming into the premises. They don't come into the premises ordinarily at night. They only leave at night. And if anything, an extension of an hour is more likely to make that leaving process of the people in the club gradual rather than all in one go.
Thank you very much. Mr. Emerson, you'd like to say something more?
Yes. Look, we have absolutely no doubt that this is a well-controlled environment. And as I've said, this is in no sense personal with anyone here. The question I would have for Neil Allen is, back to our point about the principle here and precedent, if this is approved, do you think this would make it easier for others around here, licensees, to gain extra hours by simply arguing, well, it's just another hour and we'll put proper controls in place.
Mr. Allen.
Chair, can I just maybe indirectly answer that? Because obviously I'm not a witness to the case, but to answer Mr. Emerson's question, the direction I'd give to the panel in terms of the law is you have to look at the application if initially in isolation. Will this application, can the applicant meet the licensing objectives by the extra hour? The issue of cumulative impact is one for the objectors to bring and to prove to you at the moment. If there was a cumulative impact policy, that reverses that burden, but it's not in force as such. So although Mr. Emerson is right to bring it to your attention, there's other licenses in the area. The addition of this may cause problems. It's for you to decide whether this particular premises and this particular extension is going to cause problems as such. And probably the problem we're talking about is the public nuisance one.
Yes.
That Mr. Emerson has raised. So that would be my direction to you in terms of law. And I think that probably indirectly answers Mr. Emerson's question as well. In terms of the issue of would it cause other applicants to come forward, my suggestion to you, although I see the common sense thrust of that, the legal answer is that is strictly irrelevant. You concentrate on the applicant's application in front of you and the circumstances of it and the objections that you have. So, Chair, that's my answer. Before I go as well, in terms of the process, you've asked Mr. Levy to sum up. Mr. Emerson also has a right to put a case, as it were. He's asked questions, but he's got an entitlement to put his case as well and also be asked questions about it by the other parties.
Okay, well then we'll hand over to Mr. Emerson. Would you like to summarise, sir?
Well, in a sense, I feel I've done that as to the basis of our objection is not to allow further creep, and whether this would potentially do that, because we've got to 150 days and everything that goes with it from, if you go back 30 years, virtually 2 or 3 days of, well, 3 days of Henley Regatta is now 6. Women's Regatta didn't exist, it's now 3 days, and so on and so forth. It's been gradual creep of all kinds. And we've ended up with what is, frankly, in aggregate, a disgrace in this area. And this is not pointing the finger at anyone, but the disruption to this area and environmental damage. 2 trees had to be cut down on Remnham Lane to allow a big truck to come through. You know, there's a whole set of things going on here. So our objection was that this could encourage other applications that would add to public nuisance. But the second one is it appropriate, given a cumulative impact assessment is going to be carried out this year, to grant any increases until such time as that assessment has been complete?
Thank you very much indeed. Well, I think I've asked everybody if they had any final things to say, and that's done. So I would like to thank everyone for attending today. The hearing is finished and you may leave, and the committee and I will determine the application on what you've all said, and you'll be notified in writing, I believe, within 5 days, Lucienne. Yeah.
Correct.
All right, thank you so much.